All right, today we're going to discuss, we're going to be discussing Lord Nityananda, and we're going to be discussing not really a controversy about Lord Nityananda, but we're going to be discussing some false propaganda about Lord Nityananda. All right, so to begin with, we're going to say a few things about what this false propaganda, this propaganda against the character of Lord Nityananda is. And we're going to begin by first referencing the book Advaita Prakash. But first I want to show this picture of Lord Nityananda. Now there's a little bit of history of this picture. It was painted quite a long time ago. I don't know exactly how long ago, but it was a godbrother, Vidagdamadava Prabhu, who lives in Hawaii. He went on a search. He's a photographer, and he went out on a search in Bengal, and he found this picture, this painting in a temple in Calcutta. I believe it was in Calcutta. And in another temple, he found sort of the corresponding painting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then this painting and this painting of Lord Nityananda and the painting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was then used in some publications of Srila Sridhara Maharaj. And that goes back to, when? Anyway, sometime in the 1980s. Since then, this picture of Lord Nityananda and other similar, that picture that I'm referring to of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have appeared on many websites and many other publications, etc. So this picture, Nityananda is wearing a blue dhoti and a blue shawl, and he's wearing a garland of something. He has some sort of beads on his neck. He's carrying a buffalo horn. And he's holding a stick. All right, so bear this in mind. This stick is something which becomes important. So what we're going to discuss, what this propaganda is, first let me state that. The propaganda that we're discussing is that Lord Nityananda was a sannyasi. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean he was born a sannyasi, but it means at some particular time, he formally accepted the order of sannyas. But then later, he was instructed by Mahaprabhu to marry, and in the course of his Leela and pastimes, he married twice. However, this is the beginning of this, that he formally accepted sannyas. This is a propaganda. This is not a fact. So we're going to begin with where some of this propaganda has been printed in books that were written, easily over 100 years ago, possibly more, I don't know. That's the Advaita Prakash. And then we're going to discuss how this is also printed in more contemporary books by even members of the Gaudiya Sampradaya and members of the Gaudiya Mutt, which means that this propaganda over time has seeped into even bona fide sections of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Let's we'll continue here and see how this goes here. All right. So you saw the photo of Lord Nityananda carrying the danda, wearing the buffalo horn, and everything else. So we'll begin first, Giri. I'm going to put this picture up here of the Advaita Prakash, and then it's just one particular quote. I want you to read the quote twice, if you will.
Sure. So in chapter 14 of Advaita Prakash, then Lord Nityananda is referred to as the crest jewel of sannyasis. In Bengali, that's sannyasi chudamani. The crest jewel of sannyasis, the best of sannyasis.
Okay, in which chapter was that?
chapter 14 of Advaita Prakash.
All right. Now we explained in a previous Let's Talk video that this Advaita Prakash is a false literature. It is not written by who it is purportedly written by, and it has in it several very key anti-propagandas against the Gaudiya Vaiṣṇava Sampradaya. This one here we have that Mahaprabhu was that Lord Nityananda was a sannyasi, and then he gave that up. Why would this be important? Well, this is important because none of the Babaji sections, which are, yes, admittedly in the Gaudiya tradition, however, they're not accepted. They're considered by our previous acharyas all the way back to Bhaktivinoda and before as being deviants, or being what to use a more modern English term, heresies. They're heresies among the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. However, these heresies gained a significant dominance during the 18th and 19th and 20th centuries, and they continue up to today. So in order to counteract the orthodoxy of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they have created various propagandas against those things which are more orthodox. And one of those is the acceptance of sannyas among the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they reject that. So what they do, they pose this story that Nityananda, although the details are extremely lacking, as we will find out going forward, they pose this situation that Nityananda became a sannyasi, but then Mahaprabhu told him to give it up, you see. And this is supposed to be an evidence that Mahaprabhu is saying sannyasa is not necessary in our line. They failed to overlook Mahaprabhu himself was a sannyasi. So, Giri, can you tell me offhand, was it during Navadvip Leela that Mahaprabhu instructed Nityananda to
Get married?
To enter Grihastha life?
Yes, it's Navadvip Leela.
So it's before Mahaprabhu himself accepted it.
Yeah.
So there you have a situation where, okay, you have someone, he's your follower, and then you say, well, you should give that up because this is not necessary. And then you yourself turn around and take sannyasa a couple of years later. I mean, it really doesn't, if you're paying attention, the dots don't connect. But anyway, so then they say that, but there's no record. It's not written in any book where Mahaprabhu tells him, give up your sannyas. It is written, it is recorded that he tells him, you should enter Grihastha ashram. So then they are left with the troublesome task of, proving that he was a sannyasi. And they have some quotes. So they have some references. Now, it's mentioned, they're mentioning he's the crest jewel of sannyasi. So this is supposed to be an authoritative book written by the household servant of Advaita Acharya. And so it's just a way of slipping it in. You see, the crest jewel amongst sannyasis. So there he was. He's a sannyasi. Now, in contemporary conversations, they have various evidences that they present. We're going to get around to that in just a minute. But now I'm going to put up on a screen another book which is very contemporary. I believe it was written just after the beginning of this century, the 21st century, although it might have been published a little bit towards the end of the 19th.
I think it's year 2000, I believe. Yeah,
right around the turn of the century, this book was published. Now, this book was published by a branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya and the Gaudiya Mutt, by a branch of the followers of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. And we won't get much into the detail about it and who wrote it and all that. I'm just going to show the book, the cover of the book. And then, Giri, you can read one or two of the quotes that's in that book. identifying and stating that Lord Nityananda indeed was a sannyasi. So let me put this cover up on the screen here so our viewers can see the book, and then you can go ahead and read those quotes, all right?
Sure. So this is on page 26 of that book, page 26. It says, Sri Nityananda Prabhu's previous name was Kuvera. Nityananda is his sannyas name.
All right. Is that the only quote there?
That's the only quote.
All right. That's the only quote in that book. Now, what I find most peculiar about this book, the title is 5 Essential Essays, and the subtitle is Refuting Common Misconceptions in Our Vaishnava Community Today. Now, I find that almost humorous because the book itself is presenting a misconception. Now, there is a quote, and you have that quote. I think you jump ahead to that quote, Giri. It says, someone may consider Lord Nityananda a brahmachari, a jnani, a sannyasi. They can think whatever they want.
Right.
So
that's in Chaitanya Bhagavat in the Adi Kanda. Writes, some may consider Nityananda to be a sannyasi. Others may consider him to be a devotee or a jnani. They may say whatever they like.
So, did you look for the purport by Bhaktisiddhanta on that?
I did, and the only thing that Bhaktisiddhanta mentions there is that some people considered him to be a sannyas disciple of Lakshmipati Tirtha, some considered him to be a Vedantist, and some considered him to be a devotee of Krishna.
So there are different levels and there are different considerations. So now what we're discussing here, what we're concerned with is, well, what is our consideration? What is the consideration of our acharyas, whom we follow? Actually, I mean, not to just kind of state anything more, but what that brings to my mind is you can consider him whatever you want because he's an avadut. Nityananda is accepted as an avadut, and an avadut doesn't adhere to any particular social custom within the varnashram system. That doesn't mean they are a sannyasi today. They're not a sannyasi tomorrow. They are a householder, then they're a sannyasi, and they're jumping all over the place. It means that they don't follow the formality at any time, really, of any of these. All right. So someone may say, well, a controversy. I want to point out that in our sampradaya, now when I say our sampradaya, I mean from Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta, and after Bhaktisiddhanta, his disciples, which include our Srila Prabhupada and Sridhara Maharaj and Srila Puri Maharaj and Srila Keshava Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj and Yajabara Maharaj and a whole bunch of others, prominent preachers and successful preachers in Krishna consciousness, they follow the conclusion that Nityananda was never a sannyasi. He was not a sannyasi. So anyway, I'm getting a little off there myself. I just spaced it out. I do that sometimes. All right, so we've got these. Now, the next thing we want to read is that a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakura, Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, who was a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakura and who was also the first sannyasi disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Bhaktisiddhanta's first sannyasi disciple is known as Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, who was a disciple of Bhaktivinoda. So I'm going to put a picture up here on the screen of Tirtha Maharaj, Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj. That is different than Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada who was in charge of the Yogapith temple and whose name previously was Kunja Bihari. He was the secretary of Bhaktisiddhanta. We're talking about a different Tirtha Maharaj here. So I'm going to put a picture of an old picture of Tirtha Maharaj here after his having accepted sannyas, and you can read the rather lengthy quote of Tirtha Maharaj, a disciple of Bhaktivinoda, and what he has to say about this propaganda.
Right.
Now I got my thought back. We're not discussing a controversy. We're discussing a propaganda, an anti-propaganda against Gaudiya Math. We're not discussing a controversy. Inside Gaudiya Math, with the exception of this one isolated group here that I showed a picture of the book, who think and preach that Nityananda was a sannyasi, all other branches of the Gaudiya Math and followers of Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta say, no, he was not a sannyasi. So this propaganda has worked its way in to this particular branch of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but it is not the accepted conclusion. So it's not a controversy. It's a propaganda. And some people have been influenced by that propaganda as well as many other propagandas. And that propaganda work continues to this day. In Vrindavan and in Navadvip, there are various propagandas against the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta, against the Gaudiya Math, against the preaching of our Srila Prabhupada, against ISKCON as being upasampradayas, as not actually being connected to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through any bona fide sampradaya. So the battle continues. But the sad state of affairs is that in our current time, people are influenced by these propagandas, and some of them have made their way deep inside the Gaudiya Math, and really inside of ISKCON. It's just absolutely amazing how many anti-propaganda conceptions and in relation to the worship of Radha and Krishna, the worship of Govardhan, Advaita Prakash, Nityananda Sannyas. There's a long list of these anti-propagandas that are created by the Babaji sector and the sahajiyas to undermine the Gaudiyas. How many of them have actually worked their way into the present International Society for Krishna Consciousness and its branches and even branches that have separated from ISKCON? Some of them even carry this. So the reason we point these things out is, going forward, if these things gain the ground, then what you're going to have is you're going to have these otherwise bona fide branches of the Gaudiya Sampradaya turn into upasampradayas and sahajiya organizations themselves. All right, so this is not a controversy. We're just discussing an anti-propaganda against the Gaudiyas. Within the Gaudiyas, there is no controversy. Within the Gaudiyas, followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. All right, so we'll move on now. Go ahead and read us here. I'm putting up a picture on the screen of Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakura, and the first sannyas disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta. Is Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj the one whom Bhaktivinoda requested him to take Brahman Diksha, second initiation from Bhaktisiddhanta?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, so that's not another thing, but some people say, Bhaktivinoda did not authorize Bhaktisiddhanta in any way to be an acharya, to give initiation and all this stuff. Yet another propaganda against Bhaktisiddhanta. The actual fact of the matter is that Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha, having first taken Harinam from Bhaktivinoda, then Bhaktivinoda instructed him, now you take second initiation from Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta. Do you have the year on that?
Well, no, I don't. But I think it was around 1913, 1914, like that, before Bhaktivinoda left.
Bhaktivinoda's departure was 1914 or 15?
1915, I think.
1915.
I always get confused.
Because Gaurava was the year before.
There's 1 year between,
I always confuse those. One was 1914, one was 1915.
But it was a couple of years before.
Bhaktisiddhanta then didn't accept sannyas until 1918.
18, yeah.
But he's given second initiation to a disciple of Bhaktivinoda, having been requested by Bhaktivinoda at least 3 to 4 years, possibly even 5 years, before Bhaktivinoda departed.
Right.
2, 3, 4 years, whatever the numbers. Okay. All right. So this is Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj. Now, please read what he's written about regarding this this propaganda against Lord Nityananda and Gaudiya Sampradaya.
Sure. So this is an excerpt from a book that was written in 1920, which means it was during the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And the book is called Achar or Acharya, which means the Acharya and the proper behavior of an Acharya. So Tirtha Maharaj writes this: Sri Nityananda Prabhu is an Avadut Paramahamsa. But in spite of admitting this, no one should dare to call him a Vantashi, means a fallen sannyasi, as this will simply be an aparad. It is not the teaching of Mahaprabhu to make a sannyasi into a householder. If someone claims that Mahaprabhu or Nityananda Prabhu were performing some improper or stupid activities, then it is clearly seen that such vile talks belong to the category of sahajiya. Any talk about preserving the proper order by the succession of sons from bodily fathers is also downright contemptible and laughable. These kinds of statements produced by sahajiyas are worthy of non-Vaishnavas. The sampradaya can never be preserved by the householders who are attached to family life. Advaita Prakash and other such books are thoroughly unauthorized, opposite to revealed truth, and are the literary creation of sahajiyas.
All right. Well, as some people would say, read him and weep. Yes. All right. So this propaganda against Lord Nityananda, this smear, it's sort of a smear campaign, is generated by the sahajiyas. I had forgotten that he actually mentions the Advaita Prakash. So for those who are listening here, make no mistake about it. This book, Advaita Prakash, which is for sale on numerous Hare Krishna bookstores online and in bookstores in Vrindavan, etc., and has probably by this time been read by hundreds, if not thousands of devotees, is a total upagrantha. It is a total false presentation. It is a piece of
fiction.
A piece of fiction, finely crafted propaganda. Goebbels would be proud. Hitler's propaganda minister would be proud to see the way in which they have finessed. The book is full of others, so many statements that are sweet, 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 as is the tone of Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is extremely popular, particularly back in those days before there was a strong preaching mission. So it's written in the written in the mood and the flavor of the sweetness of the Gaudiyas, but it's filled with false propaganda. And there are other statements in there also. We may cover some of those in some other talks. So there you have it. Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj is saying that this is simply propaganda. It is false propaganda. The book Advaita Prakash, it's written by the sahajiyas, and it is to be completely rejected by the genuine followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, I just might mention something at this point. It's true that, especially in the modern world, many young men have risen to the call of Mahaprabhu and endeavored to spread the Sankirtan mission and have taken bold steps as young men by accepting sannyasa. And it's a fact that has been difficult for many to give up. So that is a very strong word which is used there, vantasi. So I just want to mention that there was a conversation with Srila Sridhara Maharaj, and it was brought up, this strong word against those who have retired from sannyasa. And Srila Sridhara Maharaj gave a completely different vision. And he said that Well, in essence, I'll just paraphrase. So I didn't prepare that exactly that quote. But what he was saying was that it was extremely noble that, and it is extremely noble that anyone steps forward to carry the torch of the Sankirtan movement and to serve such great souls as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta or our Srila Prabhupada, and that those persons are never looked upon. They're what we've sometimes referred to as their retirement. Their retirement from sannyas is not a scornful thing. It is not a shameful thing. What is emphasized is that they endeavored with all their ability to serve the lotus feet of their master, but that is a very difficult position to keep up for the life. And so we should look upon their noble endeavor and not their inability. And it's also a fact that, and I've seen it personally, some people have been able to do more preaching as householders than as sannyasis. All right. So anyway, that said, however, it's a different case when you're trying to say that Nityananda Prabhu was a sannyasi and Mahaprabhu told him to give it up. This is for a whole different purpose. This is for the purpose of smashing the whole idea of sannyas among the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
There was just something I wanted to mention, Guru Maharaj, after reading the article, that section from the book of Tirtha Maharaj, is that this is also the idea, the misconception created by the Nityananda Vamsa, because they're all householders, all householder gurus. So they don't push this thing about sannyas. So they want to show that they have the monopoly of initiation rather than sannyasis.
Yes, and see the gentleness of it. If they had it in a book that was, say, by Nityananda Prabhu's household servant, that would be kind of like, oh, wait a minute here, it's like your own book tooting your own horn. So they put it in a book called Advaita Prakash, which is written by the household servant of Advaita. So that's kind of like from a whole other parampara, from a whole other
lineage.
Line, and then they can say, oh, you see, Advaita, it says here in Advaita Prakash, it's not just us, it's the standard.
Right.
No, it's not the standard. And they were the first ones to print that book, weren't they?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was coming from Ishwara Puri's birthplace.
Yeah, well, they were the first ones to print it because they're the ones that invented it.
Exactly.
All right, so now let's move on to, I think you have some quotes from Bhaktisiddhanta, what he has to say about this propaganda. So I'll put his picture on the screen here, and you go ahead with the reading.
So Sahajiya Thakur says in his commentary to Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Kanda, he says, Jagat Guru Sri Nityananda Prabhu was a brahmachari disciple of Parivrajaka Sri Lakshmipati Tirtha, who enacted the pastimes of subordination to the Sri Madhva Sampradaya. We find his brahmachari name was Sri Nityananda Swarup. From ancient times, brahmachari disciples of Tirtha and Ashram sannyasis have been addressed as Swarup. The brahmachari name of Nityananda Prabhu was Swarup. Since Swarup is the brahmachari name of a Tirtha sannyasi's disciple, some people consider him to be a follower of Lakshmipati Tirtha rather than a follower of Madhavendra Puri.
All right. Do you have any other statement there?
No, that's the only statement that Bhaktisiddhanta has made there about Nityananda and his being a brahmachari.
All right. So let me take that off. Now, next, we have some quotations from Srila Sridhara. So are you prepared for that?
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
So Srila Sridhara says, Nityananda was not a sannyasi. He was a brahmachari. He performed Vyas Puja in Srivas Angan. There, some say that he was a sannyasi, but there he had no special garment either for sannyasi or brahmachari. He was a very independent spirit. Then there's another quote. He says that Nityananda was a sannyasi is not a proven fact. Nityananda, this is Ananda, this indicates the affix added to brahmachari. Ananda, Swarup, Prakash, all these types of brahmachari. Ananda, a name also in the sannyasi we find, but no other title. Ananda is a part of the name, but not title. No title of Nityananda. And also, no mention who is the sannyas guru of Nityananda. But Diksha guru of Nityananda is Madhavendra Puri, it is known. Avadut does not mean who is sannyasi. Avadut means who is not very particular of his external practices and sometimes commits something wrong, which should not be committed, should not be practiced. When lower practices are seen in connection with the high-leveled person, then they are considered as avadut. He is above that, but his practices are of lower nature. Ava means lower, and duta, that also he can either remove or he can purify.
Nice. Do you have the quote also from Chaitanya Bhagavat where
Yes.
Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda go out for begging alms, etc.?
Yeah, this is from the Madhya Kanda of Chaitanya Bhagavat. Vrindavan Thakur writes, taking the order of Sri Chaitanya upon their heads, Nityananda and Haridas immediately went out, laughing together in a happy mood. Wherever they went to beg, the householders would extend invitations to them, as they were both dressed in the robes of sannyasis.
Right, now, this is one of the strong points when the Babajis and those who are misguided, they try to support the idea of these statements in Advaita Prakash that, or in this more contemporary book, 5 Essential Essays, when they search for evidence to support the statement that he was a sannyasi, they turn to this and they say, here, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Lord Nityananda is going out to beg, and he's dressed as a sannyasi. There you have it. He was a sannyasi. But this is laughable. This reminds me of the way Christians argue with the Bible. They cut the sentence in half and give you a little piece of it. Well, let's examine the whole thing. It says, Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda were both dressed as sannyasis. Does anybody think that Haridas Thakur was a sannyasi? No. The fact is, on that day, Lord Nityananda just involved Haridas Thakur into his plot. And the next day he may have gone out to beg dressed like a king. We do know that sometimes he wore opulence of jewels and just, appeared to be a sense enjoyer to the max. And another time going out dressed as a sannyasi just to collect alms.
Well, I looked at the purport to this verse before we started this. And Sahajiya Thakur says that sannyas vesh means they were dressed as bhikshus. It means that they were dressed as beggars.
Yes, dressed as beggars. I mean, what is the sannyas dress? Somebody say, oh, he has an uttariya like this. He's wearing a dhoti. It's just like, no, that's very contemporary. This current dress of the sannyasi, this begins in 1918. Well, actually, in Bengal, there was no sannyas at the time. Any sannyasis coming through Bengal were like people from Madhavendra Puri. They were coming from South India, or maybe the Ramanujas wandered through there. They certainly did in Puri, because Puri is one of the 108, Jagannath Puri is one of the 108 Divyadeshams, holy places for the Ramanuja Sampradaya. But in Bengal, in that tradition, in that area, there was no sannyas, anybody. There wasn't anything. But there was the dress of the renunciate. And the dress of the renunciate, well, it's basically just a kopan. Okay? Read your prayers of the 6 Goswamis. It describes their dress as being a kopan. And sometimes they wore a short gumsha-sized wrapper around their waist and a little shawl to keep the chill off, or a blanket.
Or sometimes this yoga pata, the cloth.
Yeah, there's different ways to tie a single piece of cloth, which most householders didn't wear like that. There wasn't
Right.
even a distinct color. It was mainly just a kind of a gray-white.
Right.
You just keep washing your clothes in the Ganges with no soap after a while, and they turn the color of the Ganges kind of a silvery, silky gray color.
Yeah, silt color. Yeah.
They were not. The translation is in English, sannyas dressed as sannyasis, but the Bengali is bhikshu vesh. They were dressed as beggars.
It does say sannyasi vesh in the Bengali. But that just means that they were dressed as sadhus. That's basically what it means.
Yes. So, all right. So there's another quote. I believe something in relation. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Lord Nityananda howling and breaking his danda.
Oh no, that's Chaitanya Bhagavat again.
Oh, Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Yeah, there's two quotes from Chaitanya Bhagavat that the anti-party will point to again to try to prove their ridiculous point.
Okay, but before we move on, the first one. Okay, whatever. Sannyas dress, whatever. And that's your proof that Nityananda is a sannyasi. Then that's your proof that Haridas Thakur is a sannyasi. And everybody knows Haridas Thakur is not a sannyasi, and therefore that argument is out the window.
Oh,
well,
sure.
Then you have to come to what we're saying. Well, then what does it mean to sannyas dress? Well, it means sadhu, beggar, bhikshu. It means these different things, baba. But if it means sannyasi, an initiated sannyasi who has accepted the staff of renunciation, then Haridas Thakur is also a sannyasi. So that
would be impossible in the social system at that time. He was a Muslim.
That's a fact too. He was from the Muslim quarter. That would have been utter outrage.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So, Haridas Thakur was just pulled into Nityananda's plot that day to go out and beg. All right. So the other quotes they have that they want to use to support their argument.
Yeah. Again, it's from Madhya Kanda of Chaitanya Bhagavat. It says, "Where was his danda?" It's referring to Nityananda. "Where was his danda? Where was his water pot? And where were his clothes? Nothing remained with him." And
dunda. Now, sannyasi has a danda, and in those days, a sannyasi had a water pot known as a kamandalu. Dunda, dunda. But danda also means stick. It simply means stick is what it means. And a brahmachari also carries a stick. In fact, in those days, and in the village, men go out walking on the road, they carry a danda. It's not a sannyasi danda. It doesn't have the wrappings and all the different things of the different types of dandas. It's not 3 sticks or 4 sticks bound together in 9 places and all this, or an ekadanda with that thing on that little bundle for filtering water. But they go out on the street with a stick. I mean, women even carry sticks in Vrindavan for keep the pigs and the dogs at a distance. Not just always a cane, but a stick. Out in Govardhan, you say everybody's got a stick.
In Bihar, that would make everyone in Bihar a sannyasi.
Yeah, it's a stick. Danda means stick. Okay, and it is also carried by a brahmachari, and the water pot is also carried by a brahmachari. Finish that other quote, and then give me the quotes you have about. I think you have at least one. I know that there are many that brahmacharis carry dandas.
So again, a little later on in Chaitanya Bhagavat, it says, "In the dead of night, Nityananda suddenly roared loudly and broke his danda and water pot." So this morning I did a little bit of research, and I found that in the Dharma Shastras, which are the Shastras about the different ashrams and varnas and so on, it mentions frequently that a brahmachari carries a stick, a danda. So the Gautama Dharma Sutra says, "The staff carried by a brahmachari at the Brahmin class is made of bilva or palash wood." Basically means a banyan wood, type of banyan. Manusamhita says the same thing. "The dress of deerskin, sacred thread, belt, danda, and lower garment are prescribed for a brahmachari at the time of initiation." And then Apastamba Dharma Sutra says the same thing. "The staff of a brahmachari should be made of the wood of a tree that is fit to be used in sacrifice."
All right, so it's established. We're not making this up. Brahmacharis carry dandas. Householders carry danda. Everybody carries a danda. in those
Right.
days. And the water pot. Oh, the water pot. Well, guess what? They didn't have running water with a tap in an attached bathroom. And if you wanted water in your room, you had to have it in a pot. So there'd be water in the big vessels in the kitchen, and in the sleeping rooms, people would carry water and have it in there for a drink in the night or whatever, washing their hands, doing ashman in pots. Everybody had a pot. Almost everybody had a dunda of some form. He broke
Right.
his dunda. This is no evidence of his having been a sannyasi. And even more importantly, and I think in the quote of Sridhara Maharaj may have mentioned it, such an important event like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have Keshava Bharati. The whole, not just the mention of who it is, it's the whole pastime.
Right.
In what is the place? Katwa, right?
Katwa. Yeah, Katwa.
In Katwa, the sannyas of Mahaprabhu. And Lord Nityananda is such a prominent personality, and no mention of who, no pastime, no leela, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No. Never happened, never happened, never happened. But people are entitled to the way they want to think. And they can think of him however they like. However, in parampara, we should, someone asked me the other day, we were talking about, what was something I forget and everything. And I said, well, for me, it's very simple. I accept the conclusions of my guru, who accepted the conclusions of his guru, who accepted the conclusions of his guru. And those conclusions are also supported by Shastra and ancient tradition. But if someone wants to argue and try to figure the whole thing out on their own, that's fine. But for me, it's very simple. I have faith in my guru. My guru had faith in his guru. He had faith in his guru. That's the parampara of faith. Now, the sajiyas may say the same thing. Okay, more power to you. They can think, they can do, they can practice, they can say whatever they want. But we do not have to acquiesce to that any more than they acquiesce to our Siddhanta. What is sad to see is that their propaganda has made its way into numerous branches of the Gaudiya Sampradaya in the line of Bhaktivinoda and Bhakti Siddhanta to the present day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's disappointing. Otherwise, let them go on. Let them chant whatever they like. Let them think whatever they like. Let them follow whatever part of Varnashram they like, or whatever. It's of really no importance to us. What is important is that that's what they do. Now try to understand what we do. What have our acharyas said? What have our acharyas given? And none of them have accepted this Advaita Prakash or any of the statements in it. None of them have accepted the arguments of the Babajis, Nityananda Vamsas, and all this stuff. They haven't accepted any of that.
Right.
So it goes like this. If you don't want to follow what they've given, then why don't you just leave our sampradaya and go to another sampradaya? And the problem is that the defenders of the sampradaya are supposed to be the sannyasis. Well, they do very little of actual defending. They do a strong job of society-conscious defending and trying to hammer everything into the shape of their society. But they're very weak in many cases in defending the proper conception, the proper siddhanta, and even the proper histories. You see. All right, so
the question may arise from a lot of people. Well, what did Srila Prabhupada say, especially from the ISKCON devotees?
You beat me to the punch. Last but not least, okay? Last but not least. In fact, could have done this in reverse order of importance, but we decided let's go back 100 years to some disciples of Bhaktivinoda. That means Bhaktivinoda held the same conception.
Right.
And let's move forward. So last but not least, now some quotes from Srila Prabhupada. So I'll put his picture on the screen, and Giri, you'll take it and give us the quotes.
So this is a purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 5, verse 149. Srila Prabhupada writes, among the sannyasis of the Shankara Sampradaya, there are different names for brahmacharis. Each sannyasi has some assistants known as brahmacharis who are called by a certain name according to the name of the sannyasi. Among such brahmacharis, there are 4 names, Swarup, Ananda, Prakash, and Chaitanya. Nityananda Prabhu maintained himself as a brahmachari. He never took sannyas. As a brahmachari, his name was Nityananda Swarup, and therefore the sannyasi under whom he was living must have been named either Tirtha or Ashram, because the name for the assistant brahmachari of a sannyasi with either of those names is Swarup. Now, I did look up this verse with the purport of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And the only thing that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says is he just mentions, it's a very short purport by Bhaktisiddhanta, saying about the brahmachari names of the Tirtha sannyasi or the ashram sannyasi. He doesn't mention there that Nityananda never took sannyas. So Srila Prabhupada himself is saying this.
Yes, the reason you're making that clear is that in many cases, the purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita are almost a line-for-line translation and paraphrase translation of either and or combining Bhaktivinoda's commentary and or Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary. So it's very interesting that you make that note here that for our benefit, he's not just reiterating the previous Acharya's commentary, but he's also adding what previous Acharyas have said in this verse at this time that Lord Nityananda was not a sannyasi. So reflecting back to this book, 5 Essential Essays, when speaking with a godbrother about this, one of my godbrothers who went to that particular camp in the Gaudiya Mutt, who has been influenced extensively by the Babaji and Sahajiya section, he argued his essay. He said, well, look, sometimes great souls disagree. And I said, that's true. Sometimes great souls disagree, but that's not what the argument is here. We're talking about our guru and our guru's guru and our guru's guru's guru, and we're talking about the parampara. So all the great acharyas in our sampradaya, down to this particular time, say that Lord Nityananda is not a sannyasi. And all of their followers, except this one, says that he was a sannyasi. So that is, you're getting ahead. That is not great souls disagreeing. That is somebody not following their own guru, not following their param guru, and not following their param guru. What's that called? Paramishti guru?
No, param guru.
Param guru, and then there's paramishti guru.
Yeah.
After that, 3 or 4 params back. This is not a difference of great souls disagreeing. Let's say Prabhupada and Sridhara Maharaj disagreed on a particular point. And then you could say, well, great souls, they sometimes disagree. But you won't find that. You won't find that. Because they both represent Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And what was his conclusion? And Bhaktisiddhanta, in terms of the preaching, represents both Gaurkishore and particularly Bhaktivinoda Thakura in terms of the Gaudiya Siddhanta. What you do find is, say, someone in the Madhva line and someone in the Ramanuja line commenting a different statement about Lord Varaha and which kalpa he appeared or something like that. And even those things can be harmonized, that he's appeared in various colors and various kalpas and so forth. And even these things are rare. When it says great souls disagree, it isn't talking about a disciple disagreeing with his guru. That is not great souls disagree. That means somebody is deviating from the line. Somebody has accepted an influence from outside the line. The parampara. All right, so pretty much there you have it. From Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Charitamrita to Srila Sridhar Maharaj to Bhaktisiddhanta, followers of Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Our parampara does not accept this propaganda that Nityananda was ever a sannyasi. He is foremost an avadut, and beyond that, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balaram. And he is completely independent. And he was, and showed his independent nature to such an extent that Mahaprabhu told, it would be better if you were looking a little bit more the part of a householder, because people do not like, scrutinize the householder. But as a brahmachari, it would be better if you're a householder, then that kind of takes the heat off your activity, because this is bewildering to people. He was sometimes going in the liquor shops. Yes, there were liquor shops, and he's sometimes going in the liquor shops also. He's completely independent. Mm-hmm. And there are people who then take it that, yes, you can drink wine or, toddy. That's the Bengal version of wine made from the palm tree. You can drink toddy, and when you really get to feeling happy, then you do kirtan. You do the wine of the holy name means you drink some wine and chant. And yeah, all these things are going on. People are smoking. In the West, there's so many devotees, I guess you have to do devotees, who are regular smokers of marijuana. And in Australia, in Hawaii, in California, all over the place. And then go to kirtans and really get into the holy name and,
get the experience.
Taste the ecstasy, Prabhu.
Right.
Yeah, so, all right, stick to the point here. That's what we wanted to say. And we say this is not a controversy in our parampara. It is not a controversy. It is also not a controversy where the origin of the jiva. Does the living entity fall from the spiritual world? Does the living entity not? This controversy? This isn't a controversy either. Just to quote Srila Prabhupada, the conclusion is, and he says in Bhagavatam, the conclusion is, no one falls from Vaikuntha. The conclusion, no one falls. Yet devotees some people still have a hard time understanding that. Just read, here you have it. The conclusion is no one falls. So it is not, the Jiva Tattva issue is not a controversy. And that Nityananda was not a sannyasi is not a controversy. It is simply those who understand the right conclusion, the right history, the right Siddhanta, and those that don't. That's not a controversy. A controversy is we haven't come to a conclusion yet, at least in spiritual circles. And we have come to a conclusion. Our acharyas have made all the conclusions. You can't find something which is yet inconclusive in the line from Bhaktivinoda to the present day. There is only propaganda that is made against our conclusions, and the unfortunate incidences where some of these propagandas have seeped through the cracks or come in through the windows and have influenced people who should be in the bona fide line, but they have deviated by accepting these influences. All right, so here's that picture again of Lord Nityananda with his stick and his beautiful blue dhoti. So when's the last time you saw a sannyasi dressed in a beautiful blue dhoti, wearing a buffalo horn, and a garland of pearls in his hair? And when's the last time you saw sannyas dress? So if stick means sannyasi, that's one heck of a weird, peculiar-looking sannyas dress, you would have to admit. And this painting is well over 100 years old.
I think there's also a mention by Vrindavan Thakur in his Nityanandashtakam of Nityananda carrying a Kanaka danda, a danda made of gold.
All right. Okay, well, I haven't seen that. Somebody had, pretty amazing. All right, so we hope this has been helpful to those of you watching who may not even have been aware of this propaganda and what is said about it, but now you are. It's out there in print. It's in books that are being sold in the Hare Krishna movement today as we speak, in the English language and translated into other languages. And it is indeed a false propaganda. It is not accepted by any of our acharyas. But there have been those who have deviated and taken the position of acharya, and this is indeed an unfortunate situation. All right, Hare Krishna. Until next time.